Hello, everyone. I'm Dijon,
Not my era.
and welcome to the Mustardcast, the podcast about the art of storytelling and how it's used across different mediums. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see our channel grow, and to click the notification bell so that you're notified when we post. As usual, Free Palestine. Do everything you can to support them. So, what media have you been interacting with lately?
Um, let's see. It hasn't been much. I haven't had like the time to sit down and like do stuff. I'm playing a lot of the like Papa's cheat, like the Papa's games, like those Flash games. I don't know. I've just been real into them lately. They're really low stakes. I don't like. I can just turn my brain off and kind of like play them. So that's been like my big thing lately because they're on the computer. I don't have to like need any special specs or anything. I can just play them and they can exist, and it's rather nice. What else? Oh, I just started a new D&D session, but I'm not DMing this time. I am a player, and it is so refreshing to go from being a DM like to being a player. I don't have to worry about nearly as much of the stuff that I have to worry about while I DM. However, a lot of the people in this party that I'm a player in are also players in my campaign. So one of them was like, "Question for DM," and I almost went, "Huh," reflexively. It was very silly. We only had our first session on Friday, but it was really fun. We had a good time. And I'm excited to see where the campaign goes from here. And I think that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still
Haven't been up to
reading.
much, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm still reading the player's handbook for D&D, getting ready to eventually play
Mm-hmm.
with some of my friends
Mm-hmm.
who one of which who also hasn't played before, but two of the other ones have. And
Mm-hmm.
well, one of them is going to be DMing for the first time, so it'll be fun.
Ooh, fun. Very fun. Very fun.
For me, I'm always playing Rivals, and next week, on Friday, what is it? Yes, May, May 30th. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Season 2.5 releases, and Ultron comes out alongside a bunch of other stuff. That'll be really
Ooh.
fun. Still playing Clay Obscur. It's real fun, but I'll talk
Mm-hmm.
more about that later. Also started playing Doom: The Dark Ages. Um, Also really fun. And I mentioned before we started recording, I got a new laptop, and they gave me
Mm-hmm.
3 months of Apple Arcade for free. So I downloaded
Ooh.
Balatro, and I've been playing Balatro on my laptop. And god damn it, this game has got me in a chokehold.
I know. I know.
Balatro's so good.
Once it gets you, you're cooked.
Everywhere I go, I hear that theme song. It haunts me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In terms of TV and movies, finished up Andor season 2, which I'll talk more about in TV and film section. I also ended up rewatching Rogue One after finishing up Andor. Still watching Last of Us, which talked about that with Christian last episode, and we'll talk about it again this episode, episodes 4 and 5, and in our next episode we'll talk about episodes 6 and 7. Um, I went to go see Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning on opening night, and it was a great ending to the franchise. But I'll talk about that a little bit more later. And lastly, Blood of Zeus. I finished the third and final season, and it was glorious. I feel like they wrapped everything up very well, and I'm glad that this show was allowed to have a proper ending, and wasn't like canceled or anything like that. So yeah, I'll
Yeah.
definitely suggest checking out Blood of Zeus. It's a fun show. Only 3 seasons, like 8 episodes each.
Bet.
But yeah, moving on to animation. I sent you a trailer for an animated movie called K-pop Demon Hunters.
You did, and I've been seeing like the trailer also all over my Twitter feed. I trust we will be sat and watching.
Yeah, when K-pop superstars Rumi, Mira, and Zoe aren't selling out stadiums, they're using their secret identities as demon hunters to protect their fans from ever-present supernatural danger. Together, they must face their biggest threat, an irresistible rival boy band of demons in disguise. It will be featuring a new original song performed by Twice. And this is coming from Sony Pictures Animation, the animation studio behind Spider-Verse. And it'll be premiering on Netflix on June 20th. It reminds me of Gentry Chow, which has a lot of K-pop influence.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this looks really good. You know, Spider Verse changed
I
the
love,
animation industry.
oh for sure. I love the angle of having like a girl group and a boy group pitted against each other. Like I think that's really really fun.
Mm. Are you into K-pop?
Not really. My cousin is. I'm like into it on a fringe kind of thing. Like I know of K-pop and I like New Jeans, but that's the only group I could name off top definitively besides like the popular ones.
Yeah, it's not my style. Um, and I'm
Yeah.
always, I don't know, I'm always. This isn't the reason it's not for me. It's just not my type of music at all in general. But I'm also always kind of just wary about like genres of music that pull from like black music, and I'm always just
Yeah,
like, do
definitely.
they show respect for it? Like, are like I don't like I'm not into that culture, so I don't know how much they actually like call out their influences and actually, you know,
It really depends on the group.
give respect to the culture that they're pulling from.
Yeah, it really
Because
depends on the group. Some of them are pretty okay about it. A lot of them are not.
yeah, that's a thing I'm always wary of when it comes to other cultures taking, our music and make putting their own spin on it. It's like you can do it as long as you have respect for it and
Right.
let people know where it's
Be
coming from.
respectful about it. Yeah.
So next we have The Legend of Aang, The Last Airbender. We're getting an animated Avatar movie about the gang all grown up, and it will be starring in roles that I'm not sure and I don't think have been revealed. Eric Nam, Dave Bautista, and Stephen Yeun. And it will be in theaters October 9th, 2026.
Oh.
Avatar is getting into their Star Wars: The Clone Wars era, where they're filling in the gaps in between their projects, and that's fun. A visual development artist from Paramount Animation named Kat Sai confirmed on Twitter that The Legend of Aang will feature 2D characters with CGI used for certain background elements like Disney's Tarzan. And a recent cartoon that does that a lot and very well that I will point to is Demon Slayer. So
Ooh.
I'm excited to see how they implement that. How you feeling about this?
I'm actually pretty excited for it. I was a little nervous, but I think they're gonna do a good job. I fingers crossed that they're gonna do a good job because I'm kind of starved for Avatar content.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
a lot of the faults with Legend of Korra came from studio interference because seasons 1 and 3 are like perfection. Season 2 has some really good moments. It has like I don't know. I've talked about it before. Season 2 is weird, but and season 4 is kind of just whatever. So it's like that show is like literally 50-50. And that's the only real blemish on the franchise. So as long as they kind of like keep making good stuff from here on out, they'll be pretty good. And
Totally.
and I feel like after kind of like being burned on Netflix not really following their creative vision when it came to the live action show and having to leave that
Oh yeah.
project, that the creators of Avatar they're are working on this continuation of the series, or kind of like have a fire lit inside of them to like make good Avatar content since the show is not good. The
Yeah.
live action show isn't very good.
Not good. Yeah.
Lastly, in animation, we have the wonderfully weird world of Gumball. Welcome back to Elmore, where the laws of reality are a joke and family life is anything but ordinary. Whether he's battling an evil fast food empire, facing off against a sentient AI in love with his mom, or trying to stop Banana Joe from wearing pants, Gumball drags Darwin, Anais, and the rest of Elmore along for the ride. With even wilder stories, bigger twists, and surreal humor, they had to rename it The Wonderfully Weird World of Gumball. Streaming soon on Hulu um, and Disney Plus, with Hulu and Disney Plus. With this and Phineas and Ferb coming back on June 5th, we're about to feel like children again.
Hmm. Oh, for sure. I've been like, in at work, Camille will put on a cool little video to pass the time while we're in lab one, and it's been Gumball recently, and it's the first time I've like sat
Yeah, I've been
and like
seeing that.
actually
Every time
watched
I
Gumball.
go to the bathroom, I see it.
Mm-hmm. It's like the first time I've ever like sat and watched Gumball like properly. Like before, I would like catch an episode on TV every once in a while and be like, haha, this is funny. But like sitting and like watching it like an actual show makes it so much funnier somehow. So I'm really excited for this.
The fact that this isn't on HBO Max is insane. It's gonna be on Hulu
It really is.
and on Disney Plus because you can watch Hulu, everything that's on Hulu on Disney Plus. Like WB are just really messing it up lately. But moving on to comics, I finished up Mistborn, the second book, The Well of Ascension, and it was great. The last chapter was a roller coaster. It was wild. Now moving on to the Hero of Ages, and I'm excited to finish up that initial trilogy. So the Flash, number 17 and 18, as the Flash races to contain damage to Skataris, forces both below and above ground make their move to grasp power. The Flash family vacation leads the West Clan to meet the one and only Warlord. And in issue number 18, as tensions in Skataris reach a fever pitch, the entire Flash family get involved, and a rogue makes a play for the throne. Flash has been okay this arc. This arc has been interesting. It's just essentially after the events of what was it called, Absolute Power, where Amanda Waller was like trying to take over the world or something. He's just going on a vacation with his family, and superhero shenanigans happen. Black Lightning number 4 and 5. In issue number 4, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are forced to quarantine Thunder aboard the Watchtower, which puts the Trinity at odds with Black Lightning. Jefferson Pierce's metahuman outreach initiative allowed him to make a difference at a global scale, but is he willing to throw it all away to free his daughter? And in issue number 5, Black Lightning and Lightning have fallen in battle, as they are ambushed during their fight against Volcana and her Masters of Disaster. Desperate to help her father and sister, Anissa Pierce breaks free from captivity in the Justice League Watchtower thanks to the help of Grace Joy. It's all been leading to this fateful confrontation in the streets of Southside Metropolis as the Pierce family comes together to fight for each other and their community. When the dust settles, Jefferson Pierce is approached by none other than Josiah Power of the Power Company, who seeks to recruit Black Lightning to face a growing threat lurking in the shadows of the DCU. The fact that this isn't an ongoing comic infuriates me. Instead, it's going to move on to a different comic, and it's like, no. The Power Company should be happening in the Black Lightning comic. It shouldn't be a separate comic. And yes, issue 5 is the last issue, and that sucks. DC currently has no ongoing comic starring a black person.
Not one?
Ugh. Not one of their comics has a black person as the solo lead. You have actually I don't even think it's an ongoing, but there's was the Green Lantern Corps comic where John Stewart is in that, but he's part of an ensemble of other Green Lanterns.
Right.
Him and Joe Mullion are both in that, and they're both black. But like I said, I don't even know if that's an ongoing, let alone it's not led by a single black person. There's 2 black people in it, but they're not the only characters.
The leads, right? Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Black Lightning should be an ongoing comic, and who knows, maybe it still could become one. It makes no sense that it's not. And art in this book is so good. Moving on to Poison Ivy number 30 and 31. Grievously injured after an encounter with the Order of the Green Knights Master, Poison Ivy finds herself wandering a strange liminal zone, inhabited by the Grey. Meanwhile, Janet, on a search for answers about the mysterious town of Marshview, finds herself lost amongst the Green. As the 2 friends attempt to find their way home to each other, they are confronted by strange forces beyond either of their reckoning. Across their journeys, the questions begin to shift from can they return to each other to who will they each be by the time they find one another again. Things will never be quite the same for poor Janet after this. So the Green is like all the collective conscience of all plant life. And the Grey is the collective conscience of all death and decay.
Oh, okay.
In issue number 31, the strange and startling secrets of Marshview were revealed as Poison Ivy, Janet, and Peter Undine explore the transient and hungry ghost towns past. But some things are best left dead and forgotten, lest they try to eat you alive. In Batman Dark Patterns, next we have Batman Dark Patterns, issues number 2 and 3. In issue number 2, Case 01, We Are Wounded. Part 2, as the mysterious Wound Man's body count rises higher and higher. The Dark Knight detective must descend into the festering depths of Gotham's past to uncover the secret truth at the heart of Wound Man's crimes. Batman. I wrote additional notes here because I was like, where is this stuff? In issue number 3, Batman is in the dark now, amidst the accumulated devastation and suffering at the root of Wound Man's grotesque reign of terror. Can the Dark Knight bring it all to an end before the twisted killer claims another life? So this Wound Man is from a town that was, I forget, I feel like maybe I'm confusing to the Green Arrow. I don't know if it was the town or what, but he can't feel anything because of something some big company did, and he's going after people who like covered it up and were responsible for it. And issue number 3, I believe, was the end of that arc. These solo Batman books that are disconnected from the main universe are the best Bat books out right now, and there are way too many Batman books, but these are the best ones.
Banger.
And Power Girl number 17, A Fresh Start. Power Girl and her friends are the new owners of the Daily Star building with plans to bring back its former glory. But their renovation disturbs a squatter living on the property, one who's not afraid to seize full control for himself. Luckily, Power Girl is ready for a fight with a new look. They finally did the thing I've been wanting to do for years. They made Power Girl's costume sleeveless, and it's her best look yet. It's basically just a classic costume, but with no sleeves, and it looks great. Next, we have Absolute Flash number 2. Wally West is on the run from his dad and the rest of Fort Fox. And while his newfound abilities are terrifying him, he needs to find a way to use them to make his escape. But how will he handle the elite group his father sent to bring him back? Yeah, it seems like in the Absolute Universe, Wally has accidentally gone to an alternate Earth where Barry Allen is dead, and he's alive, while in the other one, Barry is alive and Wally is like a ghostly figure. This book is fun so far, and I'm excited to see where they go with this new take on the Flash. Next, we have Absolute Batman number 7. It's about to get icy cold in Gotham City as we reveal the connections between a young up-and-coming scientist named Victor Freeze, his history with the Arc-M experiment, and what it all has to do with the mysterious Joker. This universe's Mr. Freeze is a terrifying, slender man-looking dude, but with blue skin that can freeze you if you come into contact with him. A very interesting take on the character, much more horror-oriented, which isn't something they usually go for with Mr. Freeze. And lastly, we have Green Lantern Dark. On a post-apocalyptic Earth overrun by monsters, the battle between good and evil ended long ago, and evil won. Now darkness prevails as humanity struggles to survive in the corrupted wasteland that remains. Only one hero is said to haunt what's left of our shadowed cities, the one who wields the mystical green flame that will return light. The one who wields the mystical green flame that will return light to a dark world, the Green Lantern. But she's been missing for years, and on the isolated island of New England, Solomon Grundy's undead army only grows larger and more powerful every night. And oh my god, I didn't know this. And now that I know this, I'm happy. The person who's drawing it, which the art is great, is the artist of Something is Killing the Children. Which is a comic that I need to start reading. But yeah, it's good so far. I've been waiting for this comic, and then it came out, and I didn't know, and I'm like 2 issues behind, so catching up. That's all I got in terms of comics. Moving on to TV and film. We're gonna start off with some info from director Matt Shakman on his inspiration for Fantastic Four: First Steps. He says, "I'm not so much looking at the other movies, I'm looking at the comics themselves. I'm a huge comic book fan. I've been a fan of Fantastic Four since I was a kid. So going back to Jack Kirby and Stan Lee and John Byrne and following all the way up to what's happening, certainly Jonathan Hickman and Mark Waid and Ryan North, what he's been doing, I'm trying to figure out who these characters are to me and how to bring them to life in the best possible way. And that's really where I've started and how we've approached it. Finally, somebody who reads comic books making a comic book movie over at Marvel.
Right.
Because they just have no respect for the comic whatsoever over there. And I realized that this movie is doing the thing that I've been saying that Marvel should for years, which is making a movie set in an isolated universe that doesn't have the baggage of the main universe weighing it down. And I think that's what's going to help make this movie great when it finally comes out. I'm excited for this.
Same.
But moving on to Ironheart. I sent you a trailer for this show that comes out in a month. Set after the events of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Ironheart pits technology against magic when Riri Williams, played by Dominique Thorne, a young genius inventor determined to make her mark on the world, returns to her hometown of Chicago. Her unique take on building iron suits is brilliant, but in pursuit of her ambitions, she finds herself wrapped up with the mysterious yet charming Parker Robbins, aka the Hood, played by Anthony Ramos. So Disney and Marvel have been getting flamed by the Black community for the lack of marketing the show has had, despite the fact that it comes out in a month. Some say it's to avoid the bigots and grifters, but I think that's a poor excuse. We shouldn't be tiptoeing around them out of fear that they'll attack us, because they'll come for us whether we like it or not. Instead, Disney should stand up in support of minority-led projects and denounce the racist haters. You know, there are a great many reasons this could be happening other than that, like them just not having faith in the show. But ultimately, that doesn't matter because the show is coming out. They decided to release it, so you need to advertise it. But moving on to the trailer itself, if I'm being completely honest, it doesn't look super interesting to me. But I'll watch it out of support and see if it's any good. But it is exciting to finally get proper mechanical armor again, instead of the boring nanomachine stuff that we've had for years now, since I think like Infinity War or whatever. But yeah, what do you think of the trailer?
It's really nice. I do agree with your point that like it doesn't look interesting to me necessarily, but I'm definitely still going to watch it because gotta support our own. And then also, like, kind of to stick it to Disney in a way where they're like, oh, we don't believe in the show, but I do. Even though it might not be for me, I do. And that's what matters, is I'm a consumer. But hopefully it is better than the trailer is, like, leading itself to be. I have faith.
Yeah. Especially since Ryan Coogler is producing this, and like they're putting that a lot in advertising now, but they should have been doing that earlier, putting his name all over the place and advertising this to get more people on board. But they decided to do it last minute. But if it was up to me, I wouldn't have had Riri Williams introduced in Wakanda Forever, and instead, she should have been introduced in the canceled Armor War show that was supposed to be about War Machine Rhodey dealing with the fallout of Tony's tech falling into the wrong hands. And I would have had her take on a bit of a sidekick role where she helps maintain and upgrade Rhodey's armor, since he's just a soldier and he knows how to use the armor, but he's not like an engineer like Tony was. So she kind of helps him in that regard, and he teaches her how to be a hero. And I would have had that show end with Rhodey becoming Iron Man, like he was in the comics for a brief time. And it would have been interesting to have the mantles of the leaders of the Avengers pass on to black men. That could have been an interesting storyline. But instead, Rhodey's dead. He died in a show that nobody watched.
Right.
He died in Secret Wars, that ass show that nobody watched. Moving on to the Superman official trailer. We got another trailer, and it was even better than the last. In this trailer, we see Clark being interviewed by Lois as Superman, and she's not taking it easy on him. She grills him on a war that he interfered in, and we see Clark get angry at the fact that he's being questioned for wanting to stop people from getting killed. And this is exactly what a lot of people need to see. Superman loses cool in the same way a normal person would, but not in like a violent or scary way. Also, I'm
Right.
very interested in the storyline of him intervening in a war, and because he largely operates in America, it's seen as an act of aggression from America. What were your thoughts on the
Yeah.
trailer?
That I really, really liked it. I really, really liked, like, especially with the points you brought up. Like, I love the idea of, like, showing, like, I don't know. I was just a little obsessed with it, and like the fact that what you said, like, um, the fact that Superman operates mostly in America and him stopping this war and stopping people from getting killed, like, is seen as an act of aggression. I really hope they play with that, like, in a really, really cool way, like in the actual movie. And this isn't it. Like, I hope that's a theme because seeing it here was like it's fascinating to me. I was like, ooh. I was already kind of like into this movie, but now I'm definitely going to go see it when it comes out. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, speaking of themes,
banger.
I don't know if they're sticking with this remix version of the John Williams Superman theme by John
Mm,
Murphy and David Fleming, but I like it.
mm,
My hope is that the Williams theme serves as a base for something new that takes elements from it to retain that iconic and nostalgic Superman feeling, but ultimately is something
right.
more original for this version of Superman. But we'll have to wait and see.
Mm,
Moving on to Andor, the final season of Andor has come to an end, and it couldn't have ended better. It ends leading directly into the events of Rogue One, the movie that Cassian Andor was introduced in, and a movie I rewatched after finishing Andor, and they transition into each other very smoothly. Now I'm itching to rewatch
ooh,
the original trilogy, or at least A New Hope, because Rogue One ends where that movie begins. Um, yeah, Rogue One is about getting the Death Star plans, and it's real good. Rogue One is easily one of the
a
best Star Wars
banger.
movies, up there with the original trilogy. Yeah,
Mm,
Andor is still managed to be unapologetically Star Wars, um, despite it, feeling more grounded than anything we ever seen before, even more than Rogue One. And
right.
Anthony Carboni on the Kind of Funny Andor spoiler cast says that Star Wars is a template that you can put a lot onto. And I feel like this is the first time we've seen them use that aspect of the franchise to the height of its ability, and something I've said over and over again that Disney should
Sure.
do with the MCU. It's a template of characters that you can, you know, do anything with, place them into any genre, and you can do the same thing with Star Wars.
Mm,
And Andor is a perfect example of that. And I can imagine more stories like this being told about rebels during the all-out war with the Empire, um, maybe
mm,
even following or featuring some of the characters that survived the end of the show. Because I don't know, I like this kind of like political thriller, spy espionage stuff that they're doing here. It's really fun.
right. Yeah, it sounds like fun.
But speaking of spy and espionage, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
Hmm.
Went to go see that opening night, and it was incredible. It was a great end to easily one of the greatest action franchises of all time. It it definitely ends with a bang, and showcasing some of the best set pieces in the entire franchise. And there's one
Wow.
where Ethan has to swim through a sunken submarine that had me on the edge of my seat.
Hmm.
It was so good. He had to like try to get around missiles that were in the submarine as the submarine was also rolling off of a cliff underwater. It was crazy. It was so good.
That sounds crazy.
Man, the Mission Impossible movies are so good, but this one has some of like the most tense set pieces as well. And I'm excited to learn how much of it was real and how he trained for it. Because in what was it? The best Mission Impossible, in my opinion, Rogue Nation. He learned how to hold his breath for 6 minutes for a stunt,
Wow.
and I'm curious to see how far he went for this movie, despite being I think 61. Um, because there's also at the very end a fight between two airplanes, and it's crazy. And I'm curious to see how much of that was him actually hanging off an airplane flying through the sky.
Right.
But yeah, do you have any experience with the Mission Impossible franchise?
I don't, unfortunately, but maybe this last one. I think Mostly, I'm just in shock that this is like the last one, like forever. Are there not?
I mean, probably not forever, but at
not
least with him as the
mm,
main character.
that makes sense. I mean, you did say
Bishop,
he was 61. I was like,
yeah, Mission Impossible originally was a show in like the 60s or 70s or something. Um, and then yeah, and
really?
then in '96 they made a movie, and then they've made 8 movies now. But yeah,
I see.
I'm interested to see what they'll do with the franchise moving forward because I doubt they'll just end it
Mm,
here. They'll probably do something new, bring in
yeah.
a new person to play Ethan Hunt or a new character or something.
Hmm.
So we're back with another review of The Last of Us Season 2. This time, episodes 4 and 5. We have Christian back once again. You want to introduce yourself again, Christian, for anybody who might not have seen the previous episodes you were on?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, my name is Christian. I am a teaching artist, filmmaker, and musician in Baltimore. I make music under the name Black Norma. And yeah, thanks for having me back, Deshaun.
No problem. These discussions are always great.
Yeah,
The reason I created this podcast was mostly to just have discussions about art that I enjoy, and to just think about them more critically and analyze them. Help kind of get my thoughts about things out. And it's
yeah.
fun discussing this show with you.
Oh, no, same to you. Same to you.
Yeah. So we're gonna start with episode 4 of season 2, um, and it opens with Isaac, a new character if you haven't played the game. But of course, I should say spoiler alert for the games and also the entirety of the show so far. We're gonna talk full spoilers for the 2 episodes we're watching and the game itself and things that happen in the future of the game. So if you don't want any future spoilers from the game, don't watch this review or skip this section of the podcast. So yeah, we start with Isaac. With Jeffrey Wright returning to play the character in live action. Jeffrey Wright also voiced the character in the video game in The Last of Us Part 2. And in this flashback, we see him at the beginning of his journey of fighting against Fedra, which is like the government that was left behind after the events of the apocalypse that are
Right.
set up across various major cities in the U.S. And we see in the first season. Actually, no, I don't think they show it as much in the first season, and we'll probably see it a lot more in the third season of the show in flashbacks of how Fedra kind of are just they're messed up. We see it a
Right.
little bit in the first season of the show, but I don't think
Yeah.
so far we've seen it as much as we do in the games. That Fedra
Yeah.
is, because of the circumstances, even more corrupt than the government is in real life at the moment, which is
Hmm.
a low bar, but
Yeah, the
uh,
bars ain't hell.
but they still manage it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, what did you think of this opening with Jeffrey Wright as Isaac?
Mm. I think it was one of the coolest starts to an episode in the series. Um, Already, like Isaac in the games, he was somewhat of a character, but already just in this scene alone, there's so much said about him, so much history given about him, and it's so effective. Yeah, just the entire scene was just very effective at showing his character and showing how key of a role he played in Fedra getting overruled by the wolves. Um, yeah, the story of shout out Josh Peck,
Oh yeah,
but
very
Josh
random
Peck,
cameo, but he was good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it was a good cameo, but yeah, Josh Peck getting into the story about the term voters and basically like it was very locker room, like boys locker room, like basically they were just bragging about abusing people and brutalizing people. And Jeffrey Wright's character, he schools them and is saying, well, the reason why they're called voters is because they were denied their rights to vote. So people say it ironically, and immediately that bubble was burst of like, huh, we are powerful. And then they're reminded about how stupid they are. And, I feel like it leads to everything that happens after that scene. Like, I feel like there's so many layers there, um, in regards to just Isaac giving one of the Fedra soldiers a choice in regards to whether he wants to stay with Fedra or not, um, and how it ties later into the episode. But I don't want to jump ahead. But
I mean, yeah,
yeah,
no,
I like
we can jump to that part. I don't remember when it happens in the episode, but we can jump to it now, where almost
the,
immediately we see how the WLF have become just as bad as Fedra, if not worse, with
yeah,
Isaac torturing one of the Seraphites to get information on their movements,
mhm,
and him telling a story about pots and pans. A very compelling story because it's Jeffrey Wright and he's an incredible actor with an incredible voice.
yeah,
And this man could just talk about pots and pans and make it sound interesting and make you care
yeah.
about that. And
You made
by the end of that scene, we see the guy that he didn't kill when he killed the rest of those Fedra soldiers at the beginning of the episode is
mhm,
now he's now much more jaded, and he, like Isaac, sees the Seraphites as animals and that they just need to be put down.
mhm. Which and almost it took me a bit to realize that it was the same guy, like it was the same timid soldier. But yeah, I feel like that soldier being given the choice to join the wolves just for the wolves to adopt that same sort of mindset. I think it definitely plays into what they're trying to get into with the season in regards to perspective, in regards to who's the good or the bad guys, and how, yeah, it really is about perspective there. But yeah, I think that the scene with the pan is very Craig Mazin. Like I feel like and one of my friends pointed it out. He was just like Craig Mazin loves using characters telling stories as a way to show character. Um, so like yeah, just him talking about impressing on the people he was dating with cooking and how he used to live a certain life before the apocalypse, but this is who he is now. And then we see him commit this act of brutality. It shows that even though it seemed like Isaac was well intentioned or that he cared about the people, he's turning that same sort of energy that Fedra had towards the Seraphites.
Yeah,
And
and we see essentially in a lot of ways, mine is kind of like the braggadociousness. That guy that Isaac let live essentially just became Josh Peck's character, where he now kind of just has no respect for the people of that world.
right,
But
yeah, and I know, yeah, everything you said.
yeah, but
Yeah,
when we get to Ellie and Dina in this episode, we open with the text Seattle Day One, which is a device that they use in the games, um,
yeah,
to mark the different chapters of the story, and you go through each day with the two characters you play as, and
mm,
as soon as that happened, we all knew, okay, there's 4 episodes including this one, so
right,
like, okay, we're gonna get day 2, day 3, but one of those episodes can't be one of those days unless they
right,
split some days between episodes. So what's that going to be? And that happened in episode 6, and we'll get to that later. But yeah, this is the beginning of kind of the structure of the game. It took them, they took their time getting here in comparison to the game. We talked before how the game kind of just, it has to be a game, so you have to play it. So they want to get you
right.
to the action faster, whereas this
Mhm.
was allowed to take its time a lot more, and take its time getting to Seattle, and then the bulk of season 3 is going to take place in Seattle.
Right. And yeah, overall with the pacing, especially with it being day one, I remember they do keep some of the day one stuff there. Um, like them running into the tank, them briefly alluding into how Fedra was overtaken. And we get the music store scene as well. But also, I remember in the game in day one, they were caught early. Like they were caught early by some of the wolf folks, and like,
Yeah, they cut out
yeah,
one of the. So I discovered that there wasn't just one; there were two people in Abby's group that they cut out. There was another woman, and there was another guy. Um,
mm,
and they just combined the characters essentially with other characters. They combined. They just got rid of the other woman, the third woman, and then the third guy. They just merged with Manny. Um,
right,
and in the game, they're riding on the horse. The horse gets blown
yeah,
up, unfortunately, and dies. Uh, and then
right,
they get captured, and then Ellie escapes, and then she tortures the guy who's a part of Abby's crew for information on everybody else. And yeah, that's cut out completely because that character's no longer in this, which makes sense because it was a nothing character really who didn't add a lot
yeah,
other than just an action set piece for the sake of the game itself. In the show,
right,
that wasn't necessary. But something we
hmm
see as Ellie and Dina enter Seattle in this episode is a bunch of rainbows and pride flags all over the place, and they have no clue what it means because the world ended in 2003.
right.
When was gay marriage legalized?
Was it around 20, like 13, maybe, like around that time? Like I imagine, like early teens.
Yeah, it was 2013, June 26th. 2015, I mean, June 26th.
Oh, 20. Okay,
So yeah,
12 years
is
before.
yeah, years before, over a decade. So
Yeah,
yeah, and then towards the end of the episode, we have Dina express a newfound pride in who she is. Playing into that earlier scene, but we'll get to that. Um,
right.
but yeah, I don't. Well, I guess kind of just jumping around a bit. Um, we get the take on me scene with
Yeah,
Ellie, playing a guitar in the music shop, and it was just as good as it was in the game. And in the game, you could miss it. You could completely skip over it if you don't, spend your time searching around this more open area of the game.
right.
And I'm a type of person, especially in a game like this where it's mostly linear. When you give me an open space to explore, I'm going to explore it and see everything that's there. So
Oh,
I
absolutely.
didn't miss that scene either times I played the game, but I know some people
Yeah.
did, and this time around, they were just like, no, we can't leave this incredible scene out, or make it something that you could miss, and it's just
Mhm.
it's just in the show, and you get to enjoy it, and it's great.
Mm,
Another one of those things that are like, you know, pitch perfect from the game.
right. And I feel like it's pitch perfect, and it's also one of the moments where it establishes the importance of guitar to Ellie and how that's an example of the connection between her and Joel,
Yeah.
and how it's like a guitar is kind of like a love language for Ellie. So it's Ellie expressing that to Dina, and it's a optional scene in the game. So I feel like them putting it as something that the audience needs to see, I think is a testament to how important it is to the entire narrative because I mean, in the video game, they made an entire game mechanic for making guitar or for playing
Oh
guitar. They
yeah.
made an entire mechanic, and they definitely did that for a reason, for sure.
Yeah, and people were able to play some songs through it. It was cool.
Yeah,
Final
and
Fantasy VII Rebirth has a very similar mechanic, but for the piano. That's very fun.
see, this, I hope that becomes a standard, just like some sort of way to play an instrument with a game controller.
Yeah,
Because those people doing Last of Us covers, it was deep.
yeah. I'm sure there's probably going to be, if not already, an instrument that just straight up is played using a video game controller.
Yes.
That would be awesome.
Oh, in regards to the music store scene now, again, shout out to the production designers because it is the game.
Yeah,
It is exactly the game.
but speaking of exactly the game,
Mhm.
after the music shop, we get them seeing the radio station, and then waiting until nightfall to go and check it out. and the
Hmm.
radio station looks identical to the one in the game. And
Yeah.
even I don't know, even by the end of the show, where we get a lot more pitch perfect sets, this
Mhm.
is still, I think, the best one. It looks identical to the game, and as they move around it and go to different rooms, it looks all just like that space. And in the making of at the end of the episodes, they talk about how this is like one of their favorite sets, and like they put so much work and detail into it, and it shows. This set looks
Yeah.
incredible, down to the scene itself of people hanging with their guts spilled out by
Yeah.
the Seraphites, these WLF soldiers. And they're real, stunt performers up there on wires,
Right.
fake hanging, which is like arguably unnecessary
But they
because of
could have
how,
got like
yeah,
ragdolls.
because of how
Like,
far they are, but they did it and it looks good.
hmm, yeah, like that's a very good example of. I think this a lot of the episodes have great set design, but I feel like four might be the best potentially for me so far. Yeah, the set design in four is incredible because it really does feel like you're in the game.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
yeah,
And in the scene, we have WLF soldiers, barge
mhm,
in, and of course upset seeing their people, hung with their guts strewn over the place. And we hear one of the wolves order his men to kill even the children if they find them.
yeah,
And this just showing how messed up the wolves have become in comparison to what it seems like they started as, with as a righteous group of people trying to free the citizens from their oppressors, and now they've become the oppressors. And
mm,
in the inside the episode, or the making of, Craig Mazin says that the cordyceps aren't the only disease in this world. It's also tribalism. um
mm,
and it's that us versus them mentality among the non-infected that has been like the worst disease among them. And
yeah,
you see that in this episode.
yeah. Um, Especially in regards to well, it was in like one of the podcast episodes, but they were talking about the messages on the walls and how the walls are almost it's like the worst form of communication because they're talking to each other through the things that they're writing on the walls or through the messages that they're leaving. So it's like the way that they're talking is through their violence and through the acts of violence they commit on each other. Because one of the details of that television station set where the satellite is, it's the fact that on the walls it was painted in blood. So it's like they're communicating with each other, but they're communicating with each other in the worst, most depraved ways. Um, and I feel like yeah, Craig Mason definitely touched on that a bit, but overall, yeah, I think this episode is kind of about the disease of just of tribalism. Because even Dina is like, "What is going on in Seattle? What is going on here?"
Yeah. And as they get caught by the wolves and have to escape, we see Ellie put that training to use and take down a man twice her size, like she was training for in that the beginning of that very first episode.
Yeah, and
And yeah, from here we transition to the train station. Another great
point for
set.
point. Yeah, sets are incredible. Yeah, that was another fresh out of the game one too.
Yeah, that whole scene with the flares all over the place, the red lighting, it was incredible.
Yeah.
It was really good. But as they make their escape, Ellie gets bitten, trying to protect Dina. And just this whole situation and scene that happens afterwards, or yeah, just the scene that happens afterwards leading up towards them going back to home base is incredible. And Dina finding out Ellie's immune hits way harder in the show for me than it did in the game. In the
Absolutely.
game, Ellie's mask cracks, and in the game, the cordyceps are airborne. They're through spores versus the whole mushroom network. That's not a thing in the game. Instead, it's spores. And Ellie mascracks and Dina tries to give Ellie hers, but Ellie stops her and says, she's immune, and proves it by the fact that she's not coughing because the spores, cause people to cough. But Ellie is kind of, just breathing it like it's fresh air. But, they get interrupted because they start getting chased by infected, which also happens in the show. So they don't have time to talk about it. And Dina, it's still shaking up about it, and they have a conversation, but she accepts it pretty quickly, or starts to come to terms with it pretty quickly. And they get into an argument about Dina being pregnant, which we also get to that in the show. But in this, it's a much bigger deal because she got bit, and there's like no proving you're not infected other than just waiting. So in that moment, as soon as she sees that Ellie gets bit, she's automatic like, oh no, I have to kill her. Immediately. And as they get back, she draws her gun on her. And we get an incredible scene of, Isabella Marced, acting her ass off.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
And, Ellie being like, just keep your gun pointed at me. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to wake up. I'm not going to be infected. And it was incredible.
Just far more effective. Because in the game, it really is quick. And it should be a big deal that Ellie is immune. It should be a big deal and something that should be talked about. And then Dina saying that she's pregnant, it kind of undercuts the entire narrative beat. But Ellie getting bit, it increases the stakes even more. And it makes it a character moment for Ellie, it makes it a character moment for Dina, and it makes it a character moment for their relationship too. Because it tests all of those things. Like, I feel like what the show has done well so far, and especially this episode, it changes the context to make the stakes heavier and realer. And I feel like that's what they did with the way that they unveiled Ellie being immune here. Because getting bit is different from not coughing.
Yeah.
100%. And it's visual, and it's immediate, and it's something that you can see. And I don't know. I keep on wanting to jump ahead, my fault. But there's so many. Ellie had to do that with Riley.
Yeah.
Like that, like, this sucks. I got to do this moment. Seeing Isabel Marced try to measure that and balance that while listening to Bella Ramsey. It was a very good scene, like a very just well-performed scene.
Yeah, and it ends with once she, realizes that Ellie isn't going to turn, with her, saying that she's pregnant. And then immediately they start having sex. And I'm just like, whoa, wait a minute. She's immune, but you're not immune, and you don't know how this works. You don't know if you can still get infected through having sex with this woman after she got bit. You don't know what's going to happen. I felt like it's a TV show. It's whatever. But in real life, I'd be like, let's calm down, okay? Let's be safe. Let's wait a while. Let's let this thing get through your system or something.
Right.
I don't know if we need to do this immediately.
Yeah. Like, that was the one thing where I was like, okay, because the pacing of that was so immediate. Like, it was so fast. And
another thing,
like, I didn't. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, another thing in terms of the pacing of that is that like Ellie the next morning is immediately like I'm gonna be a dad, and she's ready to raise this kid with Dina, and I'm like, you guys, you kissed once and had sex. You're barely together, and you're talking about raising a child. But it is a bit of a lesbian stereotype from what I know, speed running relationships. And, it's not necessarily untrue or a particularly bad stereotype, but that is a thing.
And we were talking about it previously, and you're saying it's definitely indicative of them being young,
100%.
which I can agree with for sure. I think with them being young, I feel like you're immediately let's have a family. I'm gonna be a dad. And sometimes it's easy to forget that they're so young that sometimes the gravity of situations just is not
especially
as consequential.
since we're comparing it to the game, where even though they're the same age, they're a lot more mature.
Mm.
Which, speaking of
Right.
which, in the game, when Ellie finds out that Dina is pregnant, she gets upset and they get into an argument. Because she wants Dina to be like, okay, you need to stay here while I go out and do everything, or you need to go back to Jackson. And Dina's like, no, I'm gonna stay out here where we're gonna do this. And
Right.
yeah, that causes a problem and an argument in the game, but in the show, it's all happy go lucky. They're happy.
Mhm. Which I feel like, and we can definitely get on this with the next episode too, but just Ellie trying to be a patriarch. Like, I feel like there is some sort of a theme of Ellie trying to be Joel
Mm-hmm.
and protect. Like, I feel like Ellie is trying to put that same type of protector thing on Dina, and I feel like Ellie's trying to prove herself as a protector, and I feel like there is a thread of that there. And like, I mean, immediately Ellie is like, "I'm gonna be a dad." Like Ellie is immediately on that type of energy because she wants to be a protector. Like she immediately puts herself in that role because just like Joel, she can't help but put herself in that type of role.
Just getting into episode 5.
Mhm.
We go to Seattle day 2, and once again we open with the WLF with one of the co-leaders. I forget her name. They did say it at the beginning of last episode as well when she met with
Yeah,
Isaac. But this is a character who wasn't in the game, I'm pretty sure.
yeah,
And she meets with a squad leader, and
hmm
the squad leader tells her about the the fact that the virus is airborne now. The spores are airborne, like they are, the whole time in the game. And like with the stalkers, they're taking something that's a regular occurrence in the game and making it a much bigger problem. And that opening scene, like every scene where it's just two characters talking, is incredible.
yes, yeah,
Even with these two new characters that we don't know, or that we don't know well. We've met one of them, but the other one we don't know at all.
yeah. It kind of reminded me of that one scene, I think in episode 2 of the first season when it was the scientist, like a foreign scientist, and they were asking her about like what the best advice is, and she was just like bomb.
But yeah, that squad leader had to seal her son and his team in the basement. So yeah,
Mm,
it's very similar to that, where it's just like, what do? We can't do anything. We have to completely cut it off.
right.
But yeah,
And y- and also like Craig Mazin himself, he was saying that they wanted that decision to kind of mirror the decision that Joel made.
yeah,
Which that is an interesting point of the alternate reality of if Joel did something else. But again, there's a this I feel like Last of Us is just a show about parenting. It's
hmm
about I feel
oh,
like
for
it's just
sure,
about family.
absolutely.
I feel like so much of it is about parenting and the effects that parents have on us. But
Which
I
makes
feel
it
like
interesting to think
yeah,
about how they'll continue that theme into a potential third game.
I am interested in how they'll do that. Um, and if Ellie will have to tend with that in some way, especially with her having an adoptive child.
I'm trying to think where to go from here because I was just going to jump. I guess we can just
Mm.
jump straight to the stalkers, really, because I was going
Yeah.
to transition from mentioning how they're taking regular occurrences in the game and making them a bigger problem, like the stalkers, and they do that in
Mhm.
this episode. Ellie and
They
Dina,
do.
um, they go well. Before that, actually, we get another example of how Dina is more of the brains of the operation, and
Mm.
anything that calls for strategy, Dina is the leader. She's taking point. But the
Right.
moment shit hits the fan, Ellie takes charge. When they go to when they see one stalker and then they end up seeing, oh, it's like a dozen of them. Ellie immediately takes charge. She immediately acts where Dina kind of like hesitates. and she's able to make decisions very easily in a situation like that, where Dina not so much. And it was interesting to see their dynamic in that way.
Yeah. Again, I feel like in earlier in the episode, Dina was triangulating and was trying to figure out routes and just routes for patrolling and how often they do it and where they do it. And Dina's very good at that. But Ellie, being trained as like a young, basically like a young soldier to an extent in Fedra school, um, with everything that she went through with Joel, with everything that she went through with David, like with a lot of the just very high intensity survival fight or flight moments that Ellie's been through, Ellie's somewhat become a master at just very pragmatic, immediate problem solving, which is very different to Dina. And Dina's like the tactician, planner, very prepared, and Ellie's just like, yeah, whenever things seem just completely insurmountable or just completely out of control, Ellie's like, okay, this is what we'll do. And also, again, like it goes into that idea of like Ellie willing to sacrifice herself or wanting to sacrifice herself for people, which
Yeah,
I feel like is another common theme throughout the show. It's just Ellie wants to sacrifice herself.
yeah, and then we get Jesse coming in and saving them from the stalkers in a very
Yeah,
different way than we get him in the game when he comes to Seattle. In the
yeah,
game, I believe he saves you from some wolves that you're fighting, um, and then you fight your way through them back to the theater. But here, we get several like gameplay segments from the game kind of rolled into one with them going through the Seraphite forest after they run away from uh, this building that was full of stalkers.
right.
And
Cause
yeah, this
yeah,
is an example of how they take, an extended gameplay segment and shorten it into, an action scene that's less than 5 minutes long, because, you don't have to play through the entire stealth section
mhm,
in the show. So they could get through it a lot quicker and still get across the same points that they need to. Like in like the story beat that needed to happen here is us seeing this, the way the Seraphites sacrifice people to their goddess or whatever,
mhm,
and we see that here.
yeah. Like we, and we see it. The way that they group characters is different because Ellie does all of that by herself.
Yes,
Like she completely does all of that by herself.
and also
Um,
like we mentioned in a previous episode, Tommy came with Jesse this time, where in the game Tommy left before even Dina and Ellie left. But this time, Tommy,
right.
being a much more responsible person, stayed behind and only left because he found out that Dina and Ellie left. So him and Jesse went after them.
Mhm. And because in the game, Jesse just kind of popped up.
Yeah, he came after Dina after he found out that they were gone, and so was Tommy.
Hmm.
And yeah, this is another
And
example of us just getting more of Jesse and just
right.
him in the show just being more of a character, and you get more of him, so you like him a lot more. Jesse's one of my favorite characters this season. But with that, I'd like to kind of like circle back to the revenge, or not revenge, but the story of Dina's first kill that we get at the beginning. Isabella Marced continue to be a highlight of the season for me, and probably my favorite character this entire season. Um,
Mhm.
and she has a great scene where she tells Ellie about the first time she killed someone, when um, someone had came in and killed her mother and sister, and she killed them, and how if she didn't come back at that time, she probably would have hunted that person down, and that's why she's going with Ellie, because she understands that pain. And this is just overall, Dina is great in this, and similar in terms of personality to who she is in the game, but there is a major aspect of the character that was changed, and I'm curious why. I wonder if it has anything to do with the political climate we're in. But in the game, she is a South Asian woman, and she is Jewish. And there's a point in the game where they go to like a mosque and she tells a story about being Jewish. And yeah, like she just tells Ellie about the religion because Ellie's just not a religious person, knows nothing. Um, so they just have a brief conversation about it in the middle of like you solving a puzzle. And you know that's just
Right.
not a aspect of the character in this. Isabella Marcet is Latina and um, not Jewish as far as I know. So
Right.
um, I'm very curious why they decided to remove that aspect of the character. It's not like ruining anything, but I know that was, you know, a part of the character that I'm sure a lot of people probably related to and would have liked to see. And
Mm.
I don't know, it's such a random change to make. And I'm
Is that
curious
right?
if maybe the political climate has something to do with it.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if she just gave a good read for the
Yeah,
character.
probably. But at the same time, do you think
Prob-
they would just be looking for South Asian women to begin with?
Right. Yeah, it's very. That is an interesting choice. I feel like yeah, the climate in regards to everything. I feel like maybe that could have had an effect, but um, in regards to the changes to Dina's character, how would you say it's fared for the series? And like, what is it between the game and between the show? What would you say are the differences, other than like not being Southeast Asian, or just kind of like a lot of those differences for you?
For me, I think it's really just down to us getting more of Dina.
Hmm.
I think it's us getting more of Dina and also Ellie being like a significantly different character. Like that is just reality of the situation. And I've been seeing a
She
lot of
was
people talk online about like not liking that, and I get it. It doesn't bother me, but Ellie is
gotcha.
a different character in the show. She just straight up is. Um,
Mhm.
they're playing her as a lot less mature, which you know at the age of 19, especially in the apocalypse, you could go multiple ways with it. You could be very mature, or you could just be a regular 19-year-old. And they
Yeah.
decided to go more regular 19-year-old with the character in the show, so she hasn't changed too much from the person that she was in the first season. So she's essentially still playing first season Ellie in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
and a lot of people aren't a fan of that. I like it because it just makes the show different, and I don't want it to be just like the game. If I wanted that, I just play the game, which I am.
Yeah.
So with because of that, Dina is taking on a lot of the qualities that Ellie has in the game in terms of her skills as like we said before, a tactician, navigator, things like that in terms of camping and studying patrols and all of that. Ellie is very adept at that in the game, but in the show she isn't. So Dina fills that role. Where in the game she's kind of just along for the ride, and she's emotional support and support in a fight, but not much else. In the show, she is much more than that, and that just helps make the character overall more interesting and more endearing. On top of the fact that you just get so much more of her in general.
Right.
So overall,
Mm.
positive changes.
Yeah, for sure. Because yeah, it is a lot more of Dina, and they integrate her into scenes more because once it's revealed that Dina's pregnant, and the narrative kind of just vanishes for a bit. Like there's a few hours of gameplay all throughout day 2, and almost virtually all throughout day 3, where Dina just is not there.
Yeah, and because so much of that gameplay is cut in the show, without spoiling things, I can say that like those segments we get with Ellie away from Dina because it's a show, they're not nearly as long. You know, it's not hours of gameplay. It's an hour episode versus multiple hours of gameplay. So you're going to be without Dina for a much shorter period of time in the show once you get to that last episode than you are in the game.
Right. Yeah. I feel like that's a I feel like it's gonna be a running gag. But yeah, that's like a great consistent thing about the show is the fact that they embrace the fact that they don't have to make gameplay.
Yeah.
Like we can do all of this world building that we want and character building that we want. Because even in episode 4, the scene with Isaac, it's hard to do that in gameplay or
Well,
make that even it's even though it is great
I actually did
television.
want to talk about that. This is something that's mentioned in the making of the last episode, but I actually did have it originally in my notes to talk about when discussing episode 4, and it's the fact, and it was that scene and how that's different from the games, but how that's one of those things that is just not different because it's a show versus a game, because you can, like, the game chooses to tell the story from the perspective of the playable characters. It tells the story from the perspective of Ellie and Abby, and you don't know anything that they don't know. Anything that they're seeing or hearing, that's what you're seeing and hearing. Anything outside of that, you don't know. But plenty of games show the perspective of other characters in cutscenes. For example, the Uncharted series, which is also made by Naughty Dog, the developers of The Last of Us. You get
True.
cutscenes where they show what the bad guys are doing, but Nate is nowhere near them. He has no idea what they're doing, but we do, because that's the way they want to tell the story. They could have
Mhm.
did that with The Last of Us. They could have given us, hell, they could have given us a playable flashback with Isaac if they wanted to. But that's just not the
They
story they
could,
wanted to tell, or the way they wanted to tell the
'cause
story.
yeah, because they wanted to. You could tell they wanted to focus on. I feel like the entire game is an exercise on perspective in video games. Like that's what Last of Us Part Two is. It plays on narrative conventions of video games, just antagonism in video games, and it's just playing with perspective. I feel like doing it with Isaac, it would have pulled out of the narrative maybe a bit. But yeah, I feel like I think it would be cool if they did some playable missions with Isaac. But yeah, I feel like they just really wanted to play with the perspective of Ellie and Abby. Um, and maybe doing it with Isaac would mess with some of the just the perspective world building that they were trying to do. But yeah, I feel like yeah, with The Last of Us Part Two being so based around perspective of character, I felt like they were locked in regards to the characters that you could play as.
Yeah, but in the show, they're able to break that convention and do something different that they didn't
Exactly.
before.
Hmm.
But
And
wrapping up our talk on episode 5, it ends with Ellie going after Nora. Dina gets shot with an arrow, so Jesse has to carry her back to the theater, and has to split off from Ellie as Ellie kind of distracts the Seraphites. But on the
mhm,
way, she finds the hospital where Nora is,
mhm.
and here we get another one of those unchanged scenes that are
Yes.
almost exactly like it is in the video game. We don't get, like I said, gameplay segments of her, like, it's not, especially stuff that just doesn't make sense really when you think about it, like her crawling through the vent.
Right.
um, Instead, we kind of just, she sees the hospital, then we cut to her having somehow sneaked in, or actually no, we see her sneak past the wall, and a guard and a dog. But then after that, we kind of just jump to her being in a back room with Nora and pulling a gun on her and holding her up, and you know, her asking, "Where's Abby?" and Nora
Mhm,
refusing to tell her and saying that Joel deserved what he got, and
mhm,
then Ellie chasing her down and them making their way to the basement of the hospital where the spores are. And Ellie, of course, unaffected, but Nora
mhm.
gets infected. And we're gonna be saying this every episode of this show that we talk about it, but set design incredible.
It was
And
great.
the spore filled basement is just as good as you expect from this show. And
Right.
there's a bit of an eerie kind of beauty to the mushroom lined walls and the
Yeah.
sparkly spores in the air. And
Yeah.
we see the son of the squad leader that we see at the beginning episode, because we
Mhm,
see his name tag, same last name as her and same first initial as the name that she mentioned. and
mhm.
and then Ellie makes her way to Nora, and we get the essentially exactly how it went down in the game. She starts to torture
Yeah.
her, and then it cuts to black, and that's the end of the episode.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that whole scene?
Um, I do like the detail of showing Nora helping people. like Nora helping people in the hospital, tending to people. I feel like it's a very interesting character detail there of the fact that she kind of like a nurse figure in the hospital and it provides some characterization of her. So it kind of, even to the audience, it could warm them up to her a little bit of like, oh, she's helping people out. They added that scene for a reason to provide some extra just painting towards her character.
Yeah, we also get Nora realizing that Ellie is immune, and that because of that, she was the immune girl that Joel brought to Salt Lake City, and the reason why he killed everyone in the hospital. And Neil Druckmann confirmed that the cure would have worked, which, I don't think was necessary, but they say once you put art out there, it's no longer your own. So we all can just form our own opinions, and I like to still think of it being ambiguous, and we don't know, what is what. It could have worked, it could have not worked, but the fact that it would have worked according to Druckmann is probably reinforcing a lot of people's feeling that Joel is a bad guy, which I agree with. I think Joel is a bad person, but I do also think
Yeah.
the morality is very nebulous in this post-apocalyptic world. So it's really it's different, and I think you should be allowed to change. But at the same time, I think the conversation is really what makes him a bad person is what Abby says, right? Right before she starts beating him about like how there are some things that everybody agrees is just wrong, and I think him killing a doctor is just wrong. I don't like in the post-apocalypse. You can't go around killing doctors. You can't do that unless, like, I think the only exception is if the doctor is like a murderer or sexually assaulting people. At that point, you don't keep the doctor around just because you need a doctor. That guy's got to go. But
I
otherwise,
know.
you don't just go around killing doctors. And I think that was like the one of the other things. Obviously, he killed a lot of people, and that was also messed up. And that's also adds to that. But I think for me, the top of that list is killing a doctor.
Killing a surgeon and like one of the only people that could do that surgery. Oh, but yeah. One of the moments, absolutely, that was interesting in that exchange is the fact that like Ellie was aware of what he did and that she didn't feel
Yeah.
like, yeah, she was very just cold. She was like, yeah, I know what he did, which is from the television perspective, that's the first time we as an audience hear that, and it's like, oh, so you know, when did that happen?
Exactly.
Which the next episode gets into, but that was kind of a revelation, like the fact that she knows, but she's still like, I'm going to kill you in Abby.
Then
I
fade
feel
to
like that was
black.
an interesting character moment. Yep, and then
But
fade to black.
that's not the end of the episode because we get
Right.
the beginnings of a flashback, which at that moment confirmed our theory that episode 6 was going to be a flashback episode, and
Right.
we'll get into that in the next episode of the podcast.
Yep.
So yeah, good having you on again as usual. So you want to tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me at underscore Black Norma underscore, and that's where I post like a lot of music stuff or updates in regards to anything art related. And yeah, links to a lot of my socials or where I upload music can be found there. So yeah, again, thanks for having me and thanks for the great conversation.
But moving on to video games. A Snake Eyes game is in development, and I'm gonna need you to Google Snake Eyes game and look up some of the images that were revealed because we got some teaser images
Okay.
that I randomly came across on Instagram. Because I follow one of the devs that's working on the game. This is coming from Blair Marnell at GameSpot. The first reports about a G.I. Joe spin-off video game centered on Snake Eyes was revealed nearly 3 years ago. Atomic Arcade, one of Hasbro's in-house video game developers, has been working on the title since that time. Now Atomic Arcade has shared the first look at Snake Eyes from the upcoming game. In a post on X, Atomic Arcade wrote, "We are hard at work on our game centered on Snake Eyes, the legendary ninja / commando from G.I. Joe, and we wanted to share a glimpse of the awesome work our team is doing." Snake Eyes has always been the coolest part of the G.I. Joe franchise, so I'm excited to see what this game looks like. But since Hasbro is making games based on their IP, I want them to give me a He-Man game. I feel like a He-Man game
that'd be a banger.
would be lit. A He-Man game that's like God of War, but maybe more PG would be really fun. But how you feeling about it?
For sure.
You got any experience with Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe? You watch any of those movies? There was a cartoon on Disney XD a while ago.
Yes, that's my experience with G.I. Joe. I watched a lot of the cartoon growing up. So, like, you know, to see them make a game, like, you know, out of it is actually kind of fascinating because, like, it definitely would not have been my first thought of what to do with, like, a G.I. Joe franchise. A movie, a show, yes, a game? Fascinating. I'm excited to see if it turns out good. I think it will.
I'm excited to see what the gameplay loop is like. If it was up to me, it would just straight up be Metal Gear.
Yeah.
But if it was up to me, all games would just be Metal Gear.
Right. And I'm like, a part of me is like, yeah, a G.I. Joe game in the style of Metal Gear would be really cool. But on the same token, I feel like that's too obvious. And like maybe they might do like an Assassin's Creed kind of thing. I don't know. But then again, that's also...
Or Splinter Cell.
I don't know. We'll see. Splinter Cell would be really fun, I think.
Yeah, I gotta finish playing through the first Splinter Cell on my PS3. But next we have Naughty Dog is working on a second unannounced game other than Intergalactic, The Heretic Prophet. Neil Druckmann confirms. This is coming from Wesley Yenpool at IGN. In an interview with the Press X to Continue podcast, Druckmann discussed his ongoing roles at Sony-owned Naughty Dog. When Intergalactic, The Heretic Prophet, Druckmann works with two game directors, Matthew Gallant and Kurt Margenau, and is co-writing the game with narrative director Clair Carey. Druckmann did not say which director is working on the second game, however. There's another game that's being worked on at Naughty Dog where I am more of a producer role, and I get to mentor and watch this other team and give feedback and be like the executive in the room, he said. I enjoy all those roles, and the fact I jump between one to the next, it makes my job very exciting and always feeling fresh. I'm never bored. Aiara, you don't understand how happy I was to hear that Druckmann is in more of a producer and mentor role instead of directing. Because I've said that this is what I hope happens with the next Uncharted, so that I'd feel more comfortable playing it. And there's no way in hell this isn't Uncharted.
Right.
This has to be Uncharted. This is Uncharted 5, I feel like. I'm like 90% certain this is Uncharted 5.
That's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like.
But also, do you care about spoilers for Uncharted 4? Literally the epilogue.
Nope.
So,
lay 'em on me.
The actor who plays Abby in The Last of Us Season 2, Caitlin Dever, played Cassie Drake, Nate and Elena's daughter, in the epilogue of Uncharted 4.
Oh.
So if they're making Uncharted 5, she'll likely be coming back and reprising her role as Cassie, but older and out treasure hunting, and that'll be dope. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm definitely excited about this.
That will be really dope.
Next we have Kingdom Hearts 4. Some news and screenshots.
Yes.
This is coming from Brian Shea at Game Informer. The screenshots were accompanied by a message from the development team. To our Kingdom Hearts community, the post reads, "We're currently working hard on Kingdom Hearts 4 and will continue pouring ourselves into the game's development. We're dedicated to making this an experience that lives up to your expectations. We've seen how excited you are, and we are truly grateful from the bottom of our hearts." The account continues in a subsequent post. "We're equally excited and can't wait to share more about Kingdom Hearts 4 when the time is right. Until then, we appreciate your patience. Thank you for your continued support." So this game was originally announced in 2022. And based on most AAA games having a 5-year dev cycle, I'd say this is probably releasing in 2027.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a Kingdom Hearts fan?
Not really. I really have tried hard to get into Kingdom Hearts, but the gameplay is not for me. Like the story is fascinating, and like I'll watch other people play it, but trying to play it myself, it's like pulling teeth. I do find it hilarious that this is like the 8th Kingdom Hearts game, but they're only just now calling it Kingdom Hearts 4. Like the naming conventions have always been really, really funny to me.
Yeah, like what is it, 2.5 something? Like it's real weird. It gets real weird.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Well, like remix, final mix, it gets so strange.
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts is so
Like
weird.
very strange.
I always say that.
And it's like it kind of
I always say that Kingdom Hearts fans like to pretend like Kingdom Hearts is less confusing than it is, and that Metal Gear fans make Metal Gear seem like it's more confusing than it actually is.
right.
Yeah, this seems like it'll be a good jumping on point for new fans since it's picking up after the end of a story arc that ended with Kingdom Hearts 3. Plus,
Right.
rumors are that there will be a Star Wars world in this one. So I'm definitely more interested than ever in playing a Kingdom Hearts game. It's like in like the first teaser trailer they showed, there was an ATST foot. It was just the ATST foot. It couldn't be anything else. Because I remember seeing it, and that the nerd I am, this wasn't a matter of other people posting about it on Twitter and then me seeing it. No, I saw it and I was like, that's an ATST foot. And yeah, there's probably gonna be some Star Wars in here, and I'm excited. I'm gonna have a lightsaber keyblade.
That'll be a banger though.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with that. Next we have Marvel Rivals Ultron trailer. So we got a trailer for Ultron and a roadmap video, and we got a bunch of streamer hands-on with season 2.5. So I believe I sent you the trailer for Ultron.
I think so, and if you haven't, I've seen it.
Yeah. So first off,
out on the net.
This is one of the best Ultron designs ever made. It's going to take an incredible skin to make me use anything other than his base skin, unless they have like a comic accurate original Ultron costume. This I'm probably just gonna be just a regular one the whole game. In terms of abilities, Ultron is a very simple support character. He shoots a ray of energy as his primary, can place a dome around allies that heals in a designated, or a drone around allies that heal in a designated radius around them, and he can give his allies shields. And those are his 3 abilities. And then he has a team up with Iron Man that gives him an extra ability that allows him to shoot through a beam of energy through enemies and heal allies at the same time. But similar to Mr. Fantastic, who is a DPS / duelist who doubles as a tank / vanguard, Ultron is a duelist disguised as a strategist, which are support class, where he basically he does a lot of damage, and he doesn't do a lot of healing according to people who've played it. So he's basically just a DPS that can heal other people. Yeah, we're also getting tons of new skins for other characters. But the one I want to point out is the Ultimate Storm skin. If you look up Marvel Rivals Ultimate Storm, you'll see it. People have been getting up in arms about the amount of Peach Momoko design skins in this game. But when you have an artist that good, willing to design skins for your game, you take the damn opportunity. And Peach Momoko designed Storm for Ultimate Black Panther. So this is another skin based on one of her designs, and it looks glorious.
Hello, this is a banger?
Yes. And you've seen Peach Mocha's art. She draws Ultimate X-Men. Every time I tell you look up Ultimate X-Men art, she's the one that does like the like animes, the manga style with watercolor. It's beautiful. Right. And she designed a lot of costumes for this game and had a bunch of just costumes based off of, comics that she's drawn.
Right.
But now that the Ultimate Universe floodgates are open, I'm gonna need Ultimate Black Panther, Ultimate Wolverine, Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Iron Man, pronto. I don't even play Wolverine, but I will if they add his Ultimate Universe skin, because he looks so good in those comics. Look up Ultimate Wolverine and look at him. Look how glorious he looks. But yeah, I'm excited for Ultron. Ultron looks like
Oh,
it'll be
this
fun to
is a
play.
banger. Wait a minute.
Yeah, Ultimate
This would be
Warframe is
really
crazy.
cool again. Holy shit.
And also, was Ultimate
Yeah.
Spider-Man with the essentially equivalent of like
Mhm.
the Silver Centurion armor? It's Ultimate Iron Man. His suit's dope. Because I do play Iron Man, and I don't like any of his skins. All of his skins are ass to me. His base skin is okay, but if they add Ultimate Iron Man, I would be happy. Or just Silver Centurion, because Ultimate Iron Man armor is just that.
Mm.
So like, I just need that in my life.
It's very Halo-esque to me.
Oh wait,
The
I'm
Ultimate.
I'm now remembering that there's two Ultimate Universes. You're looking at the old Ultimate Iron Man. I do want that in the game as well.
Yeah.
But if
Okay.
you look up, I'm just gonna send you a picture because I know which one you're looking at. Because you said Halo, I was like, what? It doesn't like Halo, but I actually should show you look up Ultimate Iron Lad because he's actually Iron Lad in the new Ultimate Universe. But yeah,
Iron Lad is hilarious to me for some reason. Okay. I looked up Iron Lad, and I think I found the right thing.
Yeah, the red and silver armor is it's so good.
Yeah.
Well, if you look up regular Iron Lad, that's the different Iron Lad. But yeah.
Yeah, I put the Ultimate.
Okay, yeah. I like that costume. I want that in the game. Or
it's really nice.
Like I said, Silver Centurion is just basically what that costume is based off of, which it has big shoulder pads and it's silver. Which there was a version of it in the Iron Man movies that was pretty cool. But let me see, find a picture of that and send it to you. Because either old Iron Lad or this, or a combination of both, is what I want. For Iron Man.
Makes sense.
But yeah, next we have Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Of course I'm still playing that. I've started getting deep into the mechanics and building out my characters, and it's so fun. To think that 10 years ago I scoffed at RPGs, and now I'm out here min-maxing. I've turned one of the characters into just an absolute killing machine that one-shots most enemies and refuses to die.
Ooh.
But the trade-off is that she can't be healed. But she is a tank that does a lot of damage. You have to play Clair Obscur. You will love it. I promise.
It's on my docket.
It's so
on my
good.
docket. One of my friends has it, and we share a Steam like family library. So trust, I will be playing it.
Yeah, it's really good. Like the way the equivalent of like what is it called in Final Fantasy? Materia. The way that stuff works is so cool. Like I have one. They're called Luminas and Pictos, and I have a Lumina that makes it to where I think the character I'm talking about, Mael, takes 50% less damage but can't be healed. And then I have one that's, I forget what it's called. Maybe it's called Confident or something, where it's like you either do like 100% more damage or 20% less damage or something like that. And then I have I have like on her I have like 5 different damage multipliers on her. So that one is huge because it's like either you do a ton of damage or you do less damage. But I have so many other damage multipliers on her that even if she does less damage, she still does a lot of damage. But when she does do a lot of damage, she does a lot of damage. it's crazy.
Sounds insane.
Yeah, and then I have other things that give her extra life as well. Because she has like one of the lowest life stats, but I artificially inflate her life so that she's not dying all the time. Because she's my
right.
She just destroys everything.
Yeah.
But also something that's cool is that when you die, you can call in the remaining characters you have that aren't in your party and play as them to try and beat the boss.
Oh, I love games that do that.
Yeah.
It's like I always think it's stupid. Oh, go ahead.
No, there's something I hope they add in the finale of the Final Fantasy VII remake trilogy, because they do something really fun where the characters that aren't in your party can still do stuff in the background. They could like throw you potions, or they could use abilities. Sometimes if you put like a material on a certain character, they'll like heal you sometimes and like use like various different abilities, or like use like Fyra or something just in the background. And I think that was a cool way of doing it. But I hope that also, if you die, the other party members can just come in and fight.
Right. Yeah, like I always think it's not stupid, but like it doesn't make any sense to me when like you have a reserve party in an RPG, but they're not useful like in battle in that way. It's like if I have the reserve party, what are they for? I'm not gonna swap between them during the battle. They're my backup, you know?
Yeah.
It just never made sense to me.
But
That's why
just
games don't do that.
yeah, just talking about RPGs in general. I just been playing this and thinking about, man, I'm gonna have to get back to playing Persona 5 Royal eventually. And like relearn how to play the game. But I stopped I stopped just before Kanashiro's Palace because I was just like, I know I'm getting close because like I said, I played this before. I know how close I am to getting
I've
to
played
certain
these
palaces.
games before. Right.
And I was like, let me stop here. This is a good place to stop just before the palace. I don't want to start a new palace, then hop back in the middle of the palace.
Right.
And I was just thinking about how now that the team split and like the team that worked on Persona 5 are off doing not Persona stuff, but they still play like Persona games. I'm really excited to see what they make next because I gotta play.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play Metaphor eventually. I have a feeling that the Persona 4 remake is probably gonna come out before I even start Metaphor, and I'm probably gonna end up playing that
God help us
before
all.
Metaphor. It's just gonna take over my life. But like.
Real.
I'm curious to see what they're going to do because they could do anything, whether they want to continue with Metaphor as a new franchise or they want to make another original project that just has the same, gameplay style and calendar system. And something I want them to do that they don't do with Persona, but I'd love that they did do this with Persona, is to just step outside of high school. Like, have a Persona game. Like, if you want to stick with school, have it be college. But I would also love to see a Persona that, what if, I think I've literally said this before in the podcast, what if like a Persona that takes place in like an office space, and if it was specifically like a game studio and then pulling from like their real life experience, that would be really fun.
That would be a banger.
And like similar to like Persona 4, you go into the TVs, and this one you go into games. Actually, that would just be a cool idea for a Persona game, even if it took place in high school. If instead of that they went into a game system, that would be cool actually.
I feel like with the this most newest Persona being green on the color scale, because we've gotten red, blue, yellow, orange technically with Persona Q2, and purple with the first Persona Q. I really do hope that it's more technologically focused. I just get this feeling between the green and all the mystery about it, I feel like it's going to be tech focused, and I think that would be a really fun way to do it, like going into a video game or something along those lines.
Because it's green, it could be fantasy focused, but they did just do that with Metaphor, so who knows?
Yeah, and then also like for all that, just release a new Etrian Odyssey Atlas eye emojis, but
But lastly, for me in games, we have Doom: The Dark Ages. So the new style of gameplay took some time, took some getting used to for me. But I'm starting to get to a point in the game where the difficulty is starting to ramp up, and I'm being forced to utilize all of the mechanics more. And because of that, I'm starting to have a real good time. In the Dark Ages, you can't jump around and strafe and dash all over the place like in Doom Eternal. And instead, you're encouraged to get aggressive and stand and fight, like the devs keep saying. And you block and parry with your shield saw. And you can throw it like Captain America and have it bounce between enemies. And yeah, it's really fun. And I have to kind of like just get into that mindset and realize I have to stop trying to run around and just charge at them with my super shotgun and destroy them.
Right.
The Arachnotrons have never been more annoying than in this game. In Eternal, you could destroy their turrets, but not here.
Right.
So you have to either block their attacks, which will eat away at your shield health, because your shield can break and it'll go on a cooldown. Or just take the gunfire and die. And last night, an Arachnotron kept killing me. I would like get through a certain amount of enemies, and then the Arachnotron would spawn and it would murder me. And it was annoying, but fun at the same time. There are special levels where you pilot either an Atlan mech, the mech that we kept seeing in the other games, but we can finally pilot it, or a cyborg dragon. And the dragon levels are cool as fuck. So the dragon has cannons strapped to it and mechanical wings that turn it into like a fighter jet, and it is awesome.
Wow.
And you fly
Sounds
around
awesome.
chasing vehicles. It turns into like not an on-rail shooter, but something similar. And it turns into like Star Fox almost. And
Oh wow.
you fly around a map, and then you can land in certain areas, get off the dragon, go kill some demons, and then get back on the dragon and fly around some more. It's real fun. This game, I'm loving it so far. It took some warming up to, but now that I'm getting used to this different style of gameplay, I'm loving it so far.
Banger.
But yeah, that's all I have. If you don't have anything,
I don't think I do. No.
yeah. So
Yeah. No, I've got nothing.
I'm Deshaun. You can find my ads above me, and Aiara's ad above them. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more storytelling content, and to click notification bell so that you're notified when we post. Peace.
See ya.